Are you looking to improve culture at your organization? Do you like to stay up to date on what's working for other companies? If so, you've come to the right place. You're listening to the CultureCast, a podcast that uncovers what's working for organizations in every corner of the business world. Here's your host, Amelia Wilcox.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the CultureCast. I'm your host, Amelia Wilcox, and I am the founder and CEO of Incorporate Massage. And we do on-site corporate massage events and programs for businesses across the U.S. And so we get to work really closely with these corporate culture leaders who bring in services like ours to make their worksite a happier, healthier place for their employees, to improve employee retention and improve employee morale. So a little bit about me. I have worked in corporate wellness for about 6 years now. In Utah, where we're based, I serve on the Utah Worksite Wellness Council, and I am a speaker on corporate wellness and corporate culture. So in my experience working with these corporate culture leaders, a lot of people that are wellness directors or like the VP of HR at different organizations across the U.S., everywhere from small businesses all the way up to Fortune 500 companies, we found that they all kind of have one thing in common. Everybody is really just looking for solutions that other companies have found that work really well for them and ways to implement that into their own company, into their own culture and their own business. There's a craving that people have for this real life information that they can bring into their workplace and make it a better place for their employees to work. And so what we want to do here on the CultureCast is we want to create a community that people can get the information that they're needing, where people can go to see, how this company is implementing things to make their culture stronger and to keep their employees there and keep them happy and engaged. And we want to really highlight what other companies are doing that's working really well for them and bring that to you so that you can find ways to take that into your own company. So if you're looking for ways to improve culture at your office, then you are in the right place, because that is what this podcast is all about. So first off, let's just take a minute and kind of define what culture really is. What is it that everyone is after? What is the real purpose? What does it mean? So as a business owner in my organization, we have about 300 employees in Incorporate Massage. And so I can speak as a business owner, and I can also speak as somebody who works closely with small and large companies. And in our own business, like the culture, it's kind of the feeling, it's the philosophy of our company. It's the way we communicate. It's the things that we decide to get involved with. All of those things play into what our culture really is, the belief system of the company, if you will. So culture is really important for a company because it is going to be the blueprint for how people interact together, how they interact with their clients, how decisions are made, and that culture really plays into everything about the company. That's why it's such a hot topic right now. That's why everybody's talking about it and everybody's, trying to find ways to improve it, is because that is kind of the key that really lets businesses become successful. And if your culture is in the right place, then it's going to feed innovation. It's going to fuel positive relationships with your employees, and we really want to find ways, maybe some traditional, some non-traditional, and just see what is working in the workplace today and what we can bring to you that you can really walk away with things that you can take away from this podcast. So I kind of wanted to start this first episode just by giving you a little bit more background on me and on my company and on what we do. So I'm just going to start from the very beginning. So in 2010, my husband and I sat down at our kitchen table to go over our finances for the month, and we did not have good news on this day. We both sat down, we looked through all of our bills, and all of our credit cards were completely maxed out. We had $30,000 in credit card debt. We also had our home equity line of credit was maxed out, which was another $40,000. We had no savings, And we were using our credit cards to live off of because we had been forced to close our online store. We used to have an online outdoor retail store that we ran for about 5 years, and when the market crashed in 2008, we had to shut it down. So we had all this debt from the business, and also that reduction in income. And so we had been using these credit cards to kind of make up the difference. And so on this February day when we just sat down at our kitchen table and looked over everything, we had nowhere else to go. There were no other options for us. So I was really scared. I felt really hopeless and I felt defeated. It was really the worst day of my life. And so I was trying to find a way out of the situation. I was just thinking, I was racking my brain, thinking like, what is it that I can do? What can I do differently? You know, I'd been a massage therapist for 8 years at this point, and I could only do so many hours of massage in a day. My hands were starting to ache. You really can't do more than 5 hours a day. Your body will just give out on you. It's really hard on your joints. So I was already maxed out as a massage therapist and doing about all that I could do. My husband's a firefighter, and he was at the time working 2 side jobs. He was driving truck for a concrete company, and he was also doing armed security. And so I got 3 daughters, and we already didn't really see him as it was. So between the 2 of us, we were totally maxed out. So we were afraid we were going to lose our home, you know, that our children were going to lose their home, and we would be, you know, destitute and out of money. We didn't know what we were going to do. And so as I'm just like going through my mind and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm thinking, what can I do? Like, how can we think ourselves out of this situation? And I felt really impressed that we needed to start a new business. And, you know, it's really hard to do when you've got no money and, you know, no capital, but we were able to take that idea and bootstrap the entire thing from the ground up into what is now, you know, a nationwide company with hundreds of employees. And so the way that we did that was by reaching out to companies that are on like the best places to work lists and places that are known for really good culture, and kind of pitching them on this idea of bringing massage into their offices to reduce employee stress and improve retention and morale and help with recruiting efforts and things like that. So that's kind of how we got started, and that was just here in Utah. And then we started launching nationwide in January of 2015, and we have launched in 25 states in 17 months. So it's been a really wild ride for us, and a lot of that is due to the fact that we have so many national companies that we work with. And so we got started here in Utah. We had a corporate client who we'll actually interview on the podcast later on. They're an amazing company. And they had a second office in Dallas, and they wanted to know if we could provide massages there as well. And I was like, well, we don't really have anyone in Dallas, but let's see if we can hire somebody and figure this out. And so once we were able to find a system for hiring people out of state, then we've been able to just replicate that and do it over and over and over again in all these states across the U.S. So, and it's still rolling. We're only like halfway there, right? We've still got the other half of the U.S. to go. But that's kind of our whirlwind, super fast, incredibly fast growth story. We have had, we're at 233% growth this year from what we did last year. And, you know, in the last 17 months, we've had over 1,000% increase in website traffic and leads, and we get a lot of referrals and things like that. So we've just grown our organization super, super, super fast. We had to bring on an HR director. We have a whole HR department now. And so I am very familiar with some of these ideas of retention and recruitment and morale, because these are very real issues that me and my own company have to deal with now. And we have some really unique needs because we have a lot of part-time employees who work for us. And it's like, how do we keep them engaged, and how do we motivate them, and how do we reward them, and building those reward systems and those benefits and things like that, like all the things that we need to keep our employees happy and productive and engaged, are really unique for what we do. But what we have found as we've worked with all these different companies, and some of them we've interviewed for like video. We did a video series on a bunch of our clients last year. We've written a lot of articles in like Forbes and Huffington Post. I am a contributor, so I write on corporate culture issues and things like that. And so what we've kind of found is that a lot of people are trying to find ways to engage their employees, and a lot of people struggle with they're all a little bit unique. Each company has different employee needs. Some of our clients have 24-hour facilities, like their hospitals and call centers and things like that, and they have a totally different need and totally different capabilities of what they can do because of their unique, 24-hour staffing situation. Or there's, other companies that just have people that work for them part-time, or they're a virtual team and things like that. And so we've kind of worked with companies in every area of business, B2B, which is business to business, or B2C, which is business to consumer. We have companies that we've worked with that work in government as well. So I feel like we have a really good handle on kind of the diversity of needs in this area. We really want this podcast to be a resource for people in HR and in wellness and business owners as well, and just ways to engage and motivate and improve morale and keep their employees absolutely happy, because that's what we all really want. As a business owner, is the exact same thing that I want. So I'm speaking from experience as a business owner. It is something we struggle with as well, and it's something we're constantly working on. And so I personally am always looking for new ideas on how to engage our employees more and make them happier and have less turnover and things like that. The same issues that everybody else has. So according to a 2015 study posted on Forbes, executives said that overwhelmingly healthy corporate culture was the most essential thing for a company to thrive. And I completely agree with this. I really wish that I had a resource like this podcast when I was first starting and didn't have to go through the last 6 years of trial and error and trying to figure things out and figure out what worked for our people. I've done a lot of reading. I read the books, I read the articles and everything that's out there, and it would have been really great to keep myself from making some of the mistakes that we made. For instance, one that we made very recently that I will share is that we have always, from the very beginning, I thought, massage therapists are who we hire. Most massage therapists work part-time. 25 hours a week is kind of considered full-time for a massage therapist because your body really can't do more than that. And there just really aren't any benefits available for massage therapists. There is not really health insurance available. If you work at any of the places like a Massage Envy or anything like that, you can work full-time and you still don't really have access to benefits. So from the very beginning, when I first started Incorporate Massage, I had in my mind that we were going to grow this company into something that could provide medical benefits for massage therapists. And it was just something I have been so fixated on since I started my business. It's just this is what makes a real business. This is what makes you legitimate. You have to have health insurance. And so I kind of had that in mind as I was putting my company together. And so about a year ago, we got to the point where we could start bringing in some real benefits for our team. And so I was ready to roll out these health insurance benefits, and I was starting to shop around and look at what our options were. And so I was advised to just send out a quick survey to our team and say, hey, here's the things that we're considering bringing on. What appeals to you? And I thought for sure health insurance would be on that list, but it totally wasn't. The things that they listed as being important to them were actually financial education. So they wanted to learn, how to get out of debt, how to save, how to invest. That was number one. And then number two was access to counseling and things like that, like marriage counseling and help with raising their children, things like that, those types of resources. So we put together an employee assistance program instead of investing in healthcare, because what we didn't consider was that most of our team has a spouse with a full-time job that already has access to those medical benefits. And so for most people, we could have spent all this money bringing in a benefit that nobody would have used at all. And so that was a really important lesson for me, that we needed to ask our team what they wanted before we started rolling out what we perceived was something that was valuable to them. So we could have spent all this money on something that really had no value for our team. So I have seen a lot of companies starting off small that have grown really fast, kind of like we have, where they've just had to scale up really quickly. And I have just seen some of the companies that have made the wrong choices in what they've brought in, and some that have made really valuable choices. And that communicating with your employees is completely the key. Knowing what they value and what it is that they want is totally the key. So, for instance, there's a call center here in Salt Lake City that has it's a younger demographic, and they have been growing and growing and growing, and they're winning best places to work, and and they're a call center, so that's got really high turnover and things like that. But they've been able to develop this amazing culture because they have all these growth opportunities. They promote from within, and then they provide benefits that matter to their demographic. So it's, free snow cones on Fridays, or riding your scooter through the call center hall to get from point A to point B. They have these tracks that you can go around that have scooters can ride on and stuff. And so really knowing what's valuable to the demographic that actually works for your company makes all the difference in the world. Some of these ones that have the millennials also, it's really important for them to have benefits that are all about serving the community. So causes that they do, planting trees, cleaning up the roads, volunteering at animal shelters and things like that. Another company that we work with has a retreat that they put together for women that have been sexually abused, and that is something that really matters to their employees because of what they do. And so it's really all about learning what matters to your employees, and I think that is just really key. So when leaders don't care about culture, you see what happens to an organization. And sometimes it happens when the organization just gets too big. A friend of mine works for a credit card company who will remain nameless for this podcast. But I was actually just talking to him last week about his job. And, they claim to promote from within this job of being a analyst kept coming up, and he's kind of on the phones in a call center for this credit card company, and this analyst position opens up, and they have positions open up almost daily, and the company keeps telling him to apply for it and apply for it and apply for it. And he's taken the certification that he needs, he's gotten his degree completed, he's done everything that he needed to do, and he keeps applying over and over again, and he hasn't gotten the position. He's getting really unmotivated and kind of burnout about it because he keeps getting passed over and he keeps getting passed over. And I said to him, why are you not getting the job? Like, are they telling you this is what we want to see in your performance to get you the job? Have you asked them that? Have you come to them and said, hey, I didn't get the job. Tell me what I need to do to get it next time it's available. And he said, well, I used to go to those meetings. I went to the first 3. And what they would say is, well, it was a really robust pool of applicants. And that's all the answer that they could give him. And so he's just stopped going to those post-application meetings when he gets passed over. I can't remember what they're called, but some sort of a, review. And they're not giving him anything real to work with. And the kind of culture they have, obviously, they have very high turnover because it is a call center. But they don't value their employees. In fact, he said his boss gets a $50 a month allowance to spend on morale, team building type things. And he said that they never do anything with it except for every once in a while they buy lunch for everyone on their team. And their team comes in 3 shifts. And the first shift goes to 11 o'clock in the morning. And so they go out and buy a lunch at 11. And my friend comes in at 1 p.m. and his lunch is on his desk, and it has been sitting there for 2 hours. And then they have a third shift that comes in at 3. And the same story, you know, their food's been sitting on their desk and it's cold for 4 hours, and they don't eat together. They all eat in their little cubbies. They all eat alone, cold food at their desk. And so, you know, they're telling their employees one thing, saying it matters, team building matters, and you know, you matter, and we're gonna treat you because you guys did well and all this stuff. But then what are they doing? They're, you know, my friend's like, I would rather have, you know, a $5 gift card and go get my own lunch later and eat it hot. But, you know, they don't even eat together. So I just think a lot of times companies are sending a message to their employees that doesn't match their words. Their actions are sending a message that completely contradicts what they're verbally telling their employees. And that kind of dissonance, it is really bad for morale, and it's a real killer, and that's something we definitely want to avoid in our organizations. So when leaders make culture a priority, they really see those people thrive. For instance, in my own organization, that is like one of our top priorities, and because of that, our employees absolutely love their jobs, and they refer friends and they refer people that they know because they want to work with really good people too. And so it's kind of amazing because when you really have the right people on board and you really have a culture that fosters what it is that you're really looking for in team members, then they want to bring more people like that on, and they're going to refer. And I mean, it feeds itself, and it just builds on itself. And it's just like this amazing thing to watch. It has just been so awesome to see how my team members have like grown the company more than I have, you know, because we've gotten the right people on board, and everyone's so bought into what we're doing. So when leaders really make improving a culture a big priority for them, it's really reflected in the organization as a whole, in every aspect of the organization. If that's their customer service or, you know, their HR department, I think everyone feels it because everyone's so bought into what it is that the company is doing. So in the coming episodes, you're going to hear from a lot of different guests, and you're going to hear about what is really working for them in their own companies. It's going to be real life examples, real things that they have done that they do really well, and we want to give that to you so that you can take some of those ideas that would apply to your own businesses and really try some of these things out and just make these organizations that much more amazing than they already are. So we're going to give you strategies and tools that are going to really enhance the culture of your organization. So how do you think your organization is doing right now? If I was to ask you to just sit down and do an assessment, what does your culture look like right now? Well, if you aren't sure about that, we have a cool tool that we put together on our website, and it's called our Corporate Culture Quiz. It is at incorporatemassage.com/company culture quiz. And so you just hop online there and you can take this short little quiz. It's just a handful of questions, and it's going to give you a rating, so you're going to know exactly where your company stands. And then it's got a bunch of suggestions on some different things that you can do to improve some of those areas. So it's really worth checking out. In our next episode, you will learn how to choose a theme to create your company culture. So you're going to hear from some experts about how to select a theme and build your culture on that theme. So I am really excited to get started with this project, and I am so glad that you are here with me listening. And please, you can reach me at any time. You can email me directly with any questions, and also anything that you want to hear or you want to see on this podcast. I would love for you to reach out to me and tell me what is valuable to you, so that we can make sure we're delivering what really matters to you. So you can reach me anytime at my email address, and that's awilcox, AWILCOX @Incorporate Massage, and I will get back to you really fast. I'm on top of my email. Thank you so much for listening, and I am really looking forward to going on this journey with you. Pause. Wait for the applause.